maple tree, how do we identify a maple tree? What am I going to look for? The leaves. Oh, I love it. I love it. And it's on our flag, right? Yes. Okay, so we all know what maple leaves look like, but you're right. It's the time of year we can't find the leaves. So we're going to look for a tree specifically that has these, I call them boots. So these maple trees tend to have big, thick boots. But the best way to tell if it's a maple is that a maple tree has opposite. So if you look behind me, that's a pear tree. And after this, if you want to go look closely at those branches, they're alternate. So they're coming like this, right? They're on different sides of the branches. But if they're opposite, they're right together. So the way that actually looks from us is like the letter Y. So look up at these trees. Do you see how they all fork like the letter Y? So if they have the letter Y and boots, probably gonna be a maple tree. So let's talk about maple trees. So we need to collect syrup, but syrup's not coming out of this tree. What's coming out of this tree is sap. So in a little bit, I'll let you look in here, and the sap is dripping. Now it's cold, and if you want maple sap, it's got to be cold, the cold time of year. There's a very small window of time, usually February and March, when that sap is moving up the tree. So let's talk about that sap. So if we're trees and we've got our roots, and we've got our nice strong trunks, and we got our branches, all summer long, those wonderful leaves are making what? It's a process called photosynthesis. What are we making in those leaves? They're quite sap and sunlight and creating something. It's very sweet. Yeah, there we go. Sugar! So all summer long, those leaves are making sugar. So that sugar is stored up in those branches. And then come winter, all the sap from the sugar and water from the leaves are coming down through the trunk and staying in the roots. So in the winter, we have little sap popsicles underground. Now, as these roots all winter long are stored with that sap, it's actually collecting minerals from the soil too. So we like to say that maple syrup is good for us because it has minerals in it. It's still sugar. So all winter long, we have the sap popsicles underground. And then we get this window of time. So we need cold nights and warm days. So above freezing during the day, below freezing at night. So as you have these warm days and cold nights, what's happening is that popsicle sap is starting to move up the tree. And that's what we have. So the sap is now right in this beautiful window of time coming up into the branches. Now you'll see that the buds, these new leaves, are just about ready. So those buds are there. When they pop, no longer can we get sap. Now you might be able to get a little bit, but it's going to taste awful. It's called buddy sap, and that's because it's budded and it's no longer tastes good. So earlier in the year, you get a golden color. So we sell like the sampler. So it's like golden, amber, and dark. So depending on the time of year you've captured that sap, the color will change. So now that you've had your sap collected, the next stage for you is to boil off all that water. So to get from something that looks like this to something we can pour on our pancakes, we need to evaporate all of that all of that water. So when we're boiling, give me a number. So say I collected this many buckets, I would have to boil off this much just to get a single, say, liter. How many liters of water do you think I have to boil off just to get a single liter of maple syrup? It's a magic ratio. Yeah. Oh, you already took the test. Yeah. Now, certain trees like the sugar maple, it's 25 to 1. These are silver, so it's 40 to 1. If you go to Walnut Grove, it's like 80 to 1, making walnut birch. You have to boil a lot more water. So maples are your best bang for your buck, but it's still a lot of water you got to take out of it. So if you go to the kitchen, you can see maple butter and maple sugar. Sugar's when I've taken all of the water out. But I still have, remember in the roots, it's not just sugar. What else is in there? Minerals. So it's good for you. Yeah. All right, last couple of things. But we only want that living tissue. This is called the Cambrian era, or Cambrian era. This is the Cambrian layer. Cambrian. So the Cambrian layer goes in about that far. That's the only part of the tree that's actually alive. The inside of the wood is called heartwood. That's completely dead. When you're looking at the alternate branches on this pear tree, look on the other side, because the entire inside of that tree is hollow. The whole thing inside is dead, but all those branches are alive. So you can have a tree that's completely rotten all the way through, and the outside is completely alive. So when we tap into these trees, we're only going in just a little bit. And that wood here called sapwood is where the xylem, the phloem, that's the tubes going up and down delivering our sap. So when we put those taps in, year after year, they heal over. So when you're looking here at the sap in the buckets, you'll see some scars. So this was cut, and it wasn't until we cut inside the tree that we saw previous tap holes. So in some of these, they're all healed over. So the tree will heal. Lots of animals like woodpeckers tap into those trees to get that sap. So the first people to note this were the indigenous people in North America. They shared it with the settlers that came in. Maple and that has been shared with us. There'll be more that they'll talk about in the kitchen with you about that, but this truly is an indigenous innovation. All maple syrup, 70% of the world's maple syrup comes straight here from Canada. Out of that, I think it's 90 of the 70% is made from Quebec. So there's a little region in America that makes it, but it really is a Canadian industry. Today though, last thing, sorry, I said last thing, 4 last things ago. This is how sugar bushes traditionally today will have these lines running from tree to tree. But yarn pests and squirrels kind of like that water too. So they'll nibble these to get at that sweet water. So one of the things I like to think about is like drinking it straight, right? The sap, you can drink it. Like there's still that sugar and minerals in. And if you think about like time period, a Victorian period, and even in the indigenous time, there's no grocery stores. You survive winter, you survive the dark, there's not a lot to eat, you're hungry, and you realize coming out of this tree is water, a bit of minerals, and sugar. It's like Gatorade. So it's a pretty cool thing. Maple syrup is pretty awesome. As evident as I could talk to you all day about. So this